Thanks so much for tuning into this conversation, a very special conversation with a very special man, somebody who knows India and EMs very, very closely. Mark Mobius with me in a plain Jane grey suit, and Mark Mobius in this lovely pink suit. Mark, so good having you. Thanks for taking the time out.
Pleasure being with you.
Yeah. Do you decide the colors of your suit based on the market mood? Sometimes it's a light blue, it's a white, it's a pink.
Yeah, that's right. I love the combination of blue and pink.
Okay.
So I try that.
Okay, great. Looking very smart. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mark, tell us, are risk assets currently looking worthwhile, valuable, or are the headwinds just too large for risk assets by and large?
Well, you know, there'll always be headwinds. There's no question about it. And people have got to keep in mind when you're investing, the best time to invest is when you have money. But investing means investing with the knowledge, with research, with patience. And, you know, you can say, oh, I'm afraid the Sensex is going to correct tomorrow. Well, you don't know whether it's going to correct. It may go up. So you're best to do dollar cost averaging. In other words, putting money in at different periods. I do believe that in the next 5 years, however, the Sensex will probably go to 100,000. And with that in mind, if you believe that, then it's best time to invest.
Got it. And I'll come to that conversation as well. And I'm presuming that all of us agree that timing the market is a mug's game, but I'm still trying to understand, do the headwinds currently, which is the yields, the geopolitics, so on and so forth, make you believe that tactically there could be better times a few months down the line?
There's no question. There's a great sucking sound taking place now.
Okay.
Because with interest rates at 5% or 4 or 5%, a lot of people are thinking, hey, why should I be in the stock market? I should be putting my money into bonds. So that's the reason why you've seen a lot of these markets moving sideways and maybe a little bit down. So yes, probably there would be a correction coming along, but that's not a prediction. Nobody knows.
Agreed completely. There is a lot of talk of how the higher yields would lead to a problem for emerging market companies which have to refinance their debt both in 24 and 25. Is there a clear and present danger?
Definitely. This is one of the things I've been telling the people, look, you know, we go by the criteria of a high return on capital and low or no debt. Mm-hmm. Because with interest rates at 5%, a lot of the companies that have been relying on leverage are going to be in big trouble. So you've got to get out of those companies.
Okay. And with all of this in mind, you still believe that over the next 5 years, as you said, Sensex reaches 100,000, and India, if I'm not wrong, might still be a market to reckon with relative to a lot of other EMs?
Well, actually, India will probably become bigger and more important in the context. If you look at the emerging markets index, you'll see that China dominates, or at least before, even with the correction, China is big. But India, I think, is going to be coming up. You're going to see India becoming much larger.
Okay. There's a lot of sell-side broker firms, global in nature, talk to us about how there is oodles of money waiting on the sidelines. FPIs have made the applications for getting registered in India, and we post May 2024 elections getting over, we might actually see a deluge of money coming into India, everything else going right. Is that something that you subscribe to as well?
Yes. You must remember, the Indian market is driven by Indian investors, first and foremost.
Right.
And there's a lot of money that's coming into the market from Indians. And of course, then added to that, you'll see the foreign investors coming in. But I think it's very important for India to make it easier to try to eliminate some of the barriers to investing.
That's been a perennial complaint from a lot of global investors. Some ground has been covered. You think a lot more remains, or some some small niggles?
A lot more has to be covered. In other words, it's got to be easier for not only institutional investors, but foreign investors, individual investors to invest.
Okay. Top of your mind, anything that you reckon something should be done? I mean, there's a budget coming up at some point of time.
For example, I would love to open a personal account in India and bring money in and get it out. That's not possible now.
Okay. And then some others. Cool. Okay. Mark, the other thing is you've all through the years that I've heard you, you've been a big proponent of smaller companies getting bigger, maybe across the world, but definitely in India. We've seen the last 6, 9, 12 months, Indian small caps and Indian mid caps do far better than what the larger companies have done. Maybe because of the individual flows, maybe because of the SIP flows, so on and so forth. Is that music to the ears for you?
Yes, definitely, because that's where we're investing.
Exactly.
We invest in the small and medium cap stocks.
Right. And you still believe that there is merit out there despite
Lots
the
of
rally?
opportunity, yes.
So, I mean, without getting into necessarily specific names or etc., but there's a lot of newer themes that have gotten formed at the mid cap and the small cap and in India. And then there were the existing themes as well. What within this universe excites you the most? Where is it that you're parking money? What themes?
Companies with technological expertise. Now, that I don't just mean software companies, but companies that are using technology to improve their efficiency and their profitability. Nowadays, the big challenge for every company is how to use technology intelligently to improve their behavior and their operations. So, for example, let's say you're running a restaurant. Are you using a delivery service? Mm-hmm. Are you using the internet to promote your brand? These are all the kinds of questions we ask when we look at companies.
Okay. Well, that end of the business, which is the provider of technology and the delivery service as well, has come of age. I mean, the internet companies in India has become a very large and a pronounced sector. There's a lot of naysayers around that space, but they are now coming back. Do you like that pocket?
Definitely.
In India?
There are terrific opportunities. Software companies in India are doing very, very well.
You mean the IT service companies?
IT service companies, incredible. And there's going to be more growth in that area. However, there are a lot of players.
Exactly.
So you've got to be careful.
Exactly.
Some of them are going to fall by the wayside.
Uh-huh.
So you've got to, again, pick and choose.
But this is a sector that's been around for 20, 25 years and now a mature sector. You still fear that some companies might actually fall by the wayside?
You must remember the sector has been around a long time, but the sector itself is changing.
Okay.
Because in the past, it was more like accounting software, personnel software. Now you're talking about the internet, and you're talking about AI and how it can be utilized. These are all huge sectors, huge opportunities.
Got it. Last 3 questions, Mark. One is on India being that manufacturing hub for the world in some fashion, the China +1, call it nearshoring as well for certain areas. That has been a pronounced chatter in the last 12 to 18 months. Are you a proponent of that as well? Do you believe such companies would benefit?
Definitely. I think India is going to become, India already is a leader in software globally.
Which is services, yes.
No question. Now it's going to become a leader in hardware.
Okay.
And I'm talking about very sophisticated semiconductors. This will become a big sector in India. And the Indians have the intelligence, the capability, the wherewithal to be able to create that.
Okay, well, that's great to know. I'll end with 2 macro questions, Mark, if you allow me.
Sure.
We started off with the headwinds for the market. Just wondering if indeed the yields and the interest rates don't go much higher from here, but stay higher for longer. Is that a headwind for emerging market equities, for software-related businesses, so on and so forth? Or will the markets come to terms with it?
It will be a headwind for companies that depend on finance, that cannot generate their own finance. That will be the problem. Companies that have to borrow, that need outside finance, they're going to be in trouble.
Okay.
That's the reason why we like companies that have a high return on capital, because they'll be able to generate their own capital. So there's going to be a bifurcation of the market between those with high debt and the necessity for high finance and those that are not. That's going to be very important.
Very crucial point. For the market at large, though, is that a capping headwind, or you think the market will come to terms with it?
The market will come to terms with it.
Higher for longer, market will come to terms with it.
There'll be losers, there'll be winners, and of course the winners will rise to the top.
Got it. Final question. You are sounding over the medium term constructive. what is the biggest worry, or what is it that can really play party pooper to this quote-unquote bullish sentiment for India and emerging markets?
The biggest worry I have is really related to the technological sector, particularly the internet, and the interconnection, the global interconnection that is taking place. And now with AI, the speed of communication is becoming so rapid, so fast, that you're getting the danger of an interruption. It could be hacking, it could be some other kind of interruption in the flows of information. That could be a real big risk for the globe in general, something we have to watch very, very carefully.
With those words of wisdom, Mark Mobius, take a moment to thank you for speaking to us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And viewers, thanks for tuning into this conversation.